Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the ultimate guide to mobile signal boosting. Really pleased to have you along. We're just going to run through a few options for you and hopefully explain a little bit more about what we do. So, in terms of your presenters today, I'm Adam Butler. I'm the head of sales here at Signal Solutions. Been with the business about 18 months now, and very much enjoying helping people to get signal in places where they never thought possible. And I'm joined today by my boss and the co-founder and director of the business, Mark. How you doing, Mark?
I'm very well, thanks, Adam. Lovely to be on a call with you today, and hopefully we can sort of get down to some really interesting facts about mobile signal boosting.
Yes, if there are any, we will dig them out and share them with the group here today. People might also be able to see Isabel on the screen, who takes care of all our marketing. I'm not sure if that will be the case or not, but if there's three of us, maybe give us a wave, Isabel, just in case you're visible. I think you've muted yourself so that we don't get any background noise. Cool. All right. Well, without further ado, maybe Mark, you could just talk people through who we are and what we do.
Certainly. So we are Signal Solutions. Myself and my business partner John Baker started the business back in 2020. My background is I've always been in telecoms. I started a telecoms reseller business 2006. And part of the issue that we had, we sold a lot of mobile phone contracts to businesses, and we found that lots of people kept having to move mobile networks, or even if they moved mobile networks, they still struggled with in-building mobile signal. So we started to look at ways of solving that for people, and we found that it was very difficult to do that and very expensive. But once we found a solution to solve those problems, we've actually decided to focus solely on mobile signal boosting in building. And since 2020, we've grown the business. We've brought on some great customers. We've worked with people like the NHS, Thames Water, Isabel's favourite, Mulberry, the handbag maker. But yeah, we've worked with all sorts of different sectors. And what we find is that mobile signal is a problem for most businesses in buildings. So we can only boost mobile signal into buildings. We'll come on to that a little bit more in a minute. But you can see from this list here, we've got a really wide range of customers that we deal with. So it's not just, one particular sector. We've dealt with the NHS, National Grid, Thames Water, but we've also dealt with some of the house builders, local councils, pubs, restaurants, and hotels as well. Hotels is a big area for us, but also just your everyday offices. There's buildings that really struggle with signals. So we'll come on to a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Good. All right. So, look, in terms of what we're going to cover today, quite simple, really. What's the problem? Why is there poor mobile signal in buildings? People often ask us that. We talk briefly about the regulations. What does I put it in inverted commas, the law say? Just make sure that everyone is legal and compliant that wants to boost signal in buildings. We'll have a look at what your options are. Certainly signal boosting is one of those, but there are a few other options at your disposal. And then maybe what next? If you want to find out a little bit more about what it might mean for your building with certainly our solution, or if you want some general advice or a chat, we can explain what you can do next. Probably would normally be room for Q&A, but in today's session, I think we're going to limit that a little bit and maybe take questions in the aftermath of today's webinar. So moving on. Okay, I'll take this bit if that's all right with you, Mark.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so look, what's the problem? Well, look, there's four major network operators in the UK. And they do a great job of putting masts up and distributing signal. So when it comes out of the mast, it's got 5 bars. It's being broadcast out into the wider world. What tends to happen is, as it moves out into being broadcast, things like geography, weather, even trees can get in the way. Other buildings definitely can get in the way in city centres, but the biggest problem really is the building itself. And I've been chastised greatly for adding my graphics to this very neat slide. In fact, they were having a good laugh at me before, but I think it tells its own story that we've all probably heard from our physics lessons or science lessons in schools about the Faraday cage, which protects you from things like lightning or electricity. But your building, certainly a modern building, acts like a Faraday cage. So when this lovely clean signal that's been generated had been disrupted a bit getting to you, standing outside the building, you might still be able to get some, but because of that Faraday cage effect, effectively it's getting blocked from getting in. So as soon as you enter the building, you'll find that your calls drop off, you can't receive SMS messages anymore, and certainly data speeds have vanished. You're reliant then on what is inside the building, either a tethered phone or perhaps the Wi-Fi, which is being used for lots of other things. So that's really what the problem is. In terms of the question that normally gets asked at this point, well, look, as the mobile networks go on to improve the signal they boost with 5G, won't that solve that problem? Let me ask you, Mark, is 5G being rolled out widely going to solve all those problems?
Sadly not. And it's a fairly straightforward answer to that. The problem's actually going to get worse with as we move further along the mobile spectrum, if that's what you want to call it. So the higher up the spectrum we go, if you think back to the old days of 2G, we were using fairly basic low frequency signal, not always really low, but a lot of the time it was lower down the spectrum. As we've moved to 3G, 4G, and now 5G, to get faster data speeds, we've got to use we've got to go up the spectrum higher. So we're going into sort of gigahertz territory, which, if you think of it like a radio wave, going along, the older technology used to use a much longer wave, but now the faster data speeds that we need use a much shorter wave. So those waves just aren't basically penetrating into buildings. So trying to keep it as in layman's terms as possible, but
and also some nice breakdance in there, Mark.
Yeah, gave you a little bit of an idea of what I look like on a dance floor. But no, ultimately, the signal of 4G and 5G is now just getting harder and harder to penetrate into buildings. Another thing to say on that, the mobile networks have pretty much turned off 3G now in the UK, and there's talk of them turning off 2G. So we are going to be reliant solely on 4G and 5G moving forward, and that is why people are starting to see in-building signal problems becoming more and more common.
Yeah. We've certainly seen a bigger number of inquiries come through since that started to happen. So no, that tends to be what people ask us at that point. So I thought it was worth including it. So look, just in terms of the regulations, who's in charge of the regulation around mobile signal boosting in buildings? Easy for me to say. It's probably important at this point to say, when we're talking about boosting mobile signal, we're only allowed to boost it indoors. The mobile network operators themselves, your Vodafone, O2, BT, and 3, are the only people regulated, permitted, allowed to broadcast signal for mobile in the UK. So what can we do? Well, we can only boost signal indoors, and that's Ofcom. Ofcom regulate the industry. Why signal boosters are for indoor use only? Well, what they say is Ofcom regs ensure that mobile signal boosters can only be used indoors where they make the most impact. These rules are in place to prevent interference with wider mobile networks, allowing homes and businesses to benefit from stronger indoor coverage without affecting external signals. By following these guidelines, we help you enjoy reliable mobile connectivity indoors while staying fully compliant. And actually, you can learn more about the regulation by going to the Ofcom website. If you just actually type into Google Ofcom mobile signal boosting regulation, it'll take you straight to the website. And importantly, it'll tell you what devices are compliant and which ones are compliant. If it's not on that list, it's not compliant.
And
Anything to add there, Mark?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you suffer from insomnia, it's a good thing to read just before you go to sleep.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
No, all joking aside, it's really important from our point of view that we only use Ofcom equipment that meets Ofcom's requirements. Basically, we can't actually say it's Ofcom compliant, but if you go onto Ofcom's website, we install technology manufactured by a company called Nextivity, and they're listed on the Ofcom website, so we can confidently say that it's okay to use in the UK.
Okay, so right. So we've told you there's a problem. We've told you there's some regulation. What are your options? You might be sitting there watching this brief walkthrough with Mark and I, wondering, okay, well, fine, there's a problem. How do I solve it? So look, there's a few different options. First one, if people don't say, will 5G just fix this? The next thing that we normally get asked is, can't I just use Wi-Fi calling? So I'll tackle this one. Wi-Fi calling can be an option for businesses. It's got certain limitations, but dependent on the size of your business, it might be something for you to look at. From our perspective, the limitations really are if you're moving around your business or building between server points, your call will drop out. And that can be just as frustrating as not having the signal in the first place. The second thing to consider with Wi-Fi calling is that it is taking the bandwidth you've got available from your internet and effectively diluting it. If numerous people are using Wi-Fi calling, it's effectively weakening the overall strength of data that you've got into the building. And the third thing that's becoming the biggest frustration with customers we speak to about it is that Wi-Fi calling won't allow SMS messages to be delivered. And SMS messages are the beating heart of two-factor authentication. So if you need to securely log on, or you're waiting for an important SMS to come through from a loved one or a client or a family member, Wi-Fi calling won't bring that through to you. So I've had problems logging into LinkedIn in the past, and only a text message will two-factor authenticate it. So Wi-Fi calling, look, can be a solution, particularly for a small office, not something we would recommend for a larger office or space, but by all means, it's an option. Okay, so option 2, that's option 1 again. Option 2, you could change network. I mean, most corporate bodies, most businesses have a mobile operator, approved supplier, whether that is Voda, O2, BT EE, or Three. And if you've got poor signal in your building on the network that you've chosen, maybe you could get some SIM cards and see if by chance a different network operator is penetrating your building better than the one that you've currently got. I mean, there's upsides and downsides to that. It can be a bit of a pain negotiating that new contract. What if you want to change again afterwards? What if someone important visits your building and they're not on that network? But it's certainly an option that you can consider, because depending on where the mast is in proximity to the building might affect how well it's able to penetrate. So it's certainly
I think that's a key point, actually, because depending on the type of business that you are, if you're a hotel, restaurant, or a bar, you can't guarantee what network your customers are going to be on. I think that's really key. It's fine if you're an office and you've all got corporate mobiles and you only care about your company and the people within your business, but even then, you're still going to have suppliers, customers potentially come into your office, and if they can't use the phone, it's going to be frustrating. But you've also got health and safety issues there as well, with people, in an emergency not being able to use their phone. So changing your network is an option, but yeah, it's becoming less of an option these days, especially with people. There's a lot of, even within corporate businesses, people bringing their own device rather than using a corporate SIM. So you just can't guarantee that everybody's going to be on the same network.
No, of course. And again, these are questions we get asked by people and the frustrations that they find absolutely in the answers that we give. So option number 3. Okay. When I showed Mark this, he said that's a bit extreme, but I mean, look, it's a realistic thing. If you've got an office, maybe you're a growing business, maybe you're looking for extra space, in considering where to move to, you might look for somewhere that's got really, really good mobile signal. You might even be lucky enough to move to an office that's had a mobile signal boosting device fitted to it, which will definitely solve your problem. You know, it doesn't take Einstein to work out that moving office is a fairly drastic measure just to get mobile signal in, especially when there's a much easier solution potentially available for you. And there's a lot of upheaval, of course, with moving office. I mean, you know, I think moving house and moving office are stressful in equal measure for everyone, especially the facilities person. But it's something you could consider. Maybe you're in a small serviced office and you can just move to the one next door, which will give you 2 bars of signal. They're things to look into, but actually, if you want a resilient, robust solution, that there are different options. Option 4, I've come up with the term full-blown DAS. It's going to need some explaining. Before I ask Mark to do that, let me tell you that DAS stands for Distributed Antenna System. So, Mark, what's a full-blown DAS?
Well, full-blown DAS is
my term.
Traditional mobile signal system put into large buildings. They're still used today in football stadiums, shopping centres. Essentially what they are is a system very similar to what we would install, but instead of us repeating the mobile signal from outside, they are getting the mobile networks to all put their equipment into one comms room. Takes up quite a lot of space. It's a huge amount of equipment per mobile network, and then that all gets put through a distributed antenna system in a building. Now, that technology still exists, still used. It works very well, but it is very, very expensive, and you have to. It's not something that you can do on your own. You have to get the mobile operators involved to get their permission and their equipment into your building. You would do that in a scenario where you need to get high capacity potentially into a building. So if you were a sports arena, a concert hall, shopping centre, somewhere where you haven't always got lots of people there, but
airport, maybe
airport, exactly, where you've got a lot of people moving through an area, because you need to add capacity rather than mobile signal. So there might already be signal there, but you can't cope with having 10,000 people there suddenly. So that's where this sort of solution would work well.
Yes, but yeah, it's a large scale option, but it's not really suitable for SME business. It's not really suitable for middle price or enterprise clients even, who only have a signal problem, not a capacity issue.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. We could tell you a lot more about that and explain it to you. We could probably even point you in the direction of someone if you're Wembley Stadium, although Wembley we know is already fitted out. If you're, I don't know, a big shopping centre somewhere listening to this, well, we can point you in the right direction. But for most of our customers, it's not the preferred solution. It does lead us neatly on to point 5 as a potential option. My favourite one, unsurprisingly, is installing signal boosters.
Wow, what are they, Adam? Tell us more.
Perfect. Oh, thank you for asking, Mark. Some people actually call them repeaters. Some people call them boosters. We like to use the term signal boosters because the kit that we very carefully selected and the relationship with the manufacturer we've developed actually has a system which will boost that signal and distribute it around the building. So let me show you in a little more detail how that might look. We looked at a diagram not dissimilar to this before. This was the end of that diagram, this little building here, which at that time had no signal in it. We provide, or a signal boosting solution would provide what we call an off-air solution. It's not generating signal of its own. It's simply capturing the signal that's being distributed by the mast. And we would put an antenna on a roof, or if you had 4 networks that needed boosting, we'd line up 4 neat antennas. They're a little bit like TV antennas in the way they're cabled. They look a bit neater than TV antennas. We've got some pictures of them later for you. But typically, we'd install that at height on a building. We'd cable that into the building, find its relevant place for needing signal boosting. And this is where the distributed antenna system inside, these would be little antennas housed on the ceiling in an office, and they would radiate that signal down into the room. I like to describe it as the solution gives you signal inside as good as if you were standing on the roof with your arm in the air. So that's how a signal booster system works. And actually, Mark's mentioned it, but we partner with a brilliant company based in San Diego called Nextivity. They have a range of products that we use, which are the Selfie range, and all of those products are powered by the IntelliBoost chipset. And there's a little diagram here which explains the individual operator signal inputs going in at various levels. The chipset decodes the information and processes it, and it basically pumps it out the other side for distribution on at an echo cancelled level, and makes sure that everything is maximized to give as much power as it can, so that this is where the boosting part of it happens. It's not just a dumb repeater. It's not just repeating a signal. It's actually capturing it, processing it, and distributing it on.
Yeah, the key thing with that, just go back to that slide, quickly, Adam. If you look at the where the signal's coming in, where it says individual operator signal inputs, they can actually be at a different level. So if you imagine on your roof where we've got that antenna pointing to a cell site, we can't guarantee that every cell site is going to be equal distance to our roof. So we may get signals coming in at different levels. So you might have 3 bars or 4 bars coming into our boosters or into our antennas that then go down into our booster. What this chipset will do is actually clean that signal up and actually distribute an even signal out for all the networks around your building. So like Adam said, we're not just taking a signal in and then boosting that signal out. We are potentially taking in different levels of signal on each network, but actually distributing a fairly a very good signal for each network inside the building. So I always say to people, we're probably giving you a better signal in your building than you would stood outside your building at that stage. So that's a really important thing to take into consideration.
It is. This is the proprietary part of what is done. Again, another easy word for me to say at this time of day. And it really is the clever stuff in all the kit that we install. There's a lot of engineering goes into it because we make sure we do a great job installing it. But this is the heart of the difference. And actually, I thought it'd be useful just to give people an idea of what that might look like in a building. Obviously, this is a large schematic building, actually 2 buildings that can be joined together. But just chatting this through very quickly, these are your external antennas. Again, these are just for demonstration purposes. They don't all look like that, although they can. And these are the 4 network operators that they're pointing at to capture the signal. What we would do is we'd typically put them on the roof, or we'd find the best place outside the building to house them. We'd coax them down into, in this instance, a network unit. I often describe that as the brain, and that's what's doing all the really, really clever processing. In this schematic, from there, it's category cabled up. All the blue lines, as per the key at the bottom, are category cables. So that's distributing that out to various coverage units or child units. So this is the brain. It's passing the information out via category cabling. That's really important in this instance because there's there's minimal loss of signal as it moves out across the building through that category cabling. And then from there, you can see on each floor, we're back to coax just to move it out. This is your distributed antenna system, and that is what is putting the signal into those areas, even in the underground car park where people might need to link up for EV charging or take an important phone call as they enter the building. we can cable it all up. Just very briefly, in this instance, there is a bit of fibre actually. And what the fibre does is it allows us to use the fibre link between buildings that can actually run over 1 kilometre or 2. And you can fibre link to a hub port. It's very similar. It's replicating the brain over here. And then from there, you can run another 6 coverage units. So in total, you could run 12 coverage units. Each one will do very approximately 1,000 square meters, dependent on the layout, but that's assuming an open plan floor. That's what a schematic of a signal booster might look like. There's lots of different options with this, dependent on the installation. This is like the enterprise gold standard solution. We've got options where you could put simply one antenna on a roof, a single network unit, and then run out across a single floor. There's lots of different things, and we can build out a system design for any option.
The other thing to bear in mind as well is if you are a business that's only got 1 floor in an office of that sort of size or any size, we can put a single booster system into a single floor. When going back to like the full-blown DAS, as Adam likes to call it, with that scenario, you'd have to put it into the whole building. So the mobile networks would say we need to cover the whole building to make sure that we're giving capacity to that whole building. Whereas we can actually take, certainly like an underground car park, for example, if you did have some EV charging points, as Adam said, we could put a system in just to cover those points so people can use the EV charging. But equally, if you just had the 3rd out of 6 floors in a building, we can just put it into 1 floor as well.
Exactly, and actually, you've reminded me something of their smart meters as well. We've just completed a project where they've got smart meters in the basement. A smart meter relies on cell signal, so it wasn't able to transmit the readings it was finding back to the utility company, and we put a system in which basically took it straight from the roof, a little booster box down here. The smart meter started working immediately. So there are different case usages. The most popular one is so that people can use their phones or mobile devices for calls, data, or messaging. And this is just a bigger sort of schematic, maybe a warehouse or a shopping centre. You can see here, these are the antennas outside. They're all cabling into the brain and moving out to the various coverage units. And then from there, these distributed antennas across the down the line, as it were. And we can scale that up to suit whatever building we come across and light it up with signal where there was none before. And just a bit of a close-up on that as well. So, okay, we have got a case study. We're not going to talk through it in huge amount of detail today, but we're very pleased to have partnered with Flex by Grosvenor, a really high quality serviced office business in the heart of London in Mayfair. They've got lots of properties which we've been able to boost signal in. And actually, if viewers of this webinar go to our website, signalsolutions.co.uk, you'll see our blog section, and that's actually the first one on there. In fact, Grant was kind enough to record a short video for us by way of a testimonial, so you can see that there. Just some images. So talk us through what's on the screen here, if you would, Mark.
Yeah, so Adam's touched on this already. You've seen in some of the diagrams the NU or the network unit. So that is, as Adam calls it, the brains. That's got the IntelliBoost chip in it. And you can see there you've got 4 inputs coming into that. That is your 4 mobile networks signal coming into that booster. And then you can see the orange cables going out. That's our Cat6 cable going to the coverage unit, which is in the next image. And then again, you've got an output from the coverage unit there, which is the little black box in front of it. That is then distributing the signal out to a series of antennas. In this case, 4 antennas that would be placed around what looks like, I think that is a warehouse there. And that coverage unit is then giving signal to a wider area, and then you can have up to 6 coverage units per network unit in an installation. So you'd have multiple of those coverage units and multiple internal antennas as well. And the other picture there is our head of engineering, actually, Chris, doing some testing. So not only do we go in and install the signal, we also survey the building prior to us installing the signal, so we know what signals were available in the building beforehand, and then we make sure once we've installed the booster that there is sufficient signal around the building. So we go around and do our post-installation survey and testing, and we give the customers back a report that shows what they had and what they had before and what they've got now, and hopefully everybody's very pleased with that. And you can see there we use a signal tester, but we also use mobile phones as well, so we get a real idea, and we'll walk around and make some test calls and send some text messages and run some data speed tests as well.
Perfect. No, good. What I'm always keen to point out to people about this is, I mean, you can see here how tidy the work is. Chris leads a team of engineers, and he's very meticulous about making sure everything is done to the highest standards. Everything is neat and tidy, perfectly labeled. And even though this looks like a lot of cables, you know, you can imagine if you're looking at that from the underside, you don't see any of this. It's all neatly in the tray and out of sight, so that all your staff, visitors, guests see is perfect mobile signal on their devices. And I think the other thing to mention is, you know, all of this kit can be remotely monitored, so we can monitor it once it's set up. We can make sure it's running at its optimum. We can tweak if required, and we do actually offer maintenance as an agreement beyond installation to make sure everything is looked after and running at its absolute best at all times. But we can talk about that. That's definitely for post installation. This is just some of the kit. You know, we are very close with Nextivity Selfie range. We've got a really good relationship with the manufacturer and their senior management team, so they're always on hand to help and advise either us or you if we need. And by you, I don't mean you, Mark. By you, I mean our customers. We can get them on a call. They can answer questions if we can't. We obviously do this for a living, and we're specialists in it. It's our niche and it's all we do. But we know everything about this technology, and we've got a great relationship to help make sure we choose the right solution for the requirement. So just very quickly, some key features and benefits of what we call Amplify QX. You might have seen that name littered around our slides. Amplify QX is really the boosting system we put in, and there's some software that goes alongside that, which we'll showcase shortly. But in terms of the key features and benefits, well, let's go through them a couple at a time. Maybe, Mark, if you take these first three and just quick run through or chat through what these are.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on a few of these bits already, but our solution, a few years ago, we decided that for us to become experts in our field, we needed to understand what customers would want. And really, every solution that we build out for a customer is tailored to that individual customer. And the Amplify QX solution that we've developed is partly software, but also partly our expertise and how we design the systems in the first place. We've made sure that we're only using Ofcom compliant technology, so that's why we've partnered very closely with Nextivity. As I said earlier, they're featured on Ofcom's website, and then we can provide customers with a single or multi-network solution. So if you were just looking to boost one mobile network into your office, or if you had smart devices or IoT SIMs in an office that were all on a specific network, we can put a single network solution in to solve that problem. But if you are an office or a hotel or restaurant that's got customers coming in and you don't know what networks they're on, we'd recommend you put in a multi-network solution. So we can tailor the system for every scenario, basically.
Exactly, and that is really important, because even though the slides I've shown are of what look like large installations, we have also put single network, single box installation into relatively small offices. I mean, it's fair to say the vast majority of our work now is in the sort of middle and enterprise level installations, but we will tailor a solution to the client's requirements, and that's very much something we take pride in being able to offer. I'll just run through these very quickly. Actually, this is a really good one, quick and efficient installation, because we don't need to seek any approval because what we install is approved. We can move very quickly, as you know, it really just usually is dependent on the client rather than us, how quickly they can or want it to happen. So we can, I think the quickest we've installed is within a couple of weeks, but it's fair to say, you know, 4 to 6 weeks is more of an average for an installation time. But we work to your needs. I think, you know, features and benefits, emergency preparedness is becoming a much bigger factor now. Being able to access your mobile at a time where you need it, it's a duty of care to your staff and your visitors. I think it doesn't take much to paint a scenario in someone's mind where there's an accident and there's no way of communicating with the outside world in maybe a basement or a dark, unlit corridor at some point in the day. I don't want to paint too many negative images, but you can imagine if you've got the security and knowledge knowing your mobile signal is going to get you out of the problem, well, we'd all like to have that peace of mind and comfort. And increased productivity, of course. You know, if you can receive messages from your clients, if you can receive messages from people within the organization, you can speak to people without interruption on a good quality phone signal, and you can use SMS to get your security two-factor authenticated or payments made or transactions processed. I'm sure we can see that it's going to lead to increased productivity.
I was speaking to someone the other day, Adam, that they worked in an office, and I think they were on the 6th or 7th floor, and they've got really poor mobile signal in their office, and they use SMS two-factor authentication, and they had to basically press the button to get the code, get in the lift, go downstairs, go out the building to get signal, then get back in the lift, get back up to their desk in time, because I think it was time limited to a certain time before it would time out and you'd have to request the code again. So I think you've only got a few minutes to do that. And you talk to people like that and you realise that people put up with these sorts of issues. But when you look at something like productivity, if I found out my staff were doing something like that regularly, I'd think, well, how do we solve that? How do we fix that problem? And is there a solution to fix it? Which, as hopefully we've all explained, there is.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I know I'm chuckling there because it seems crazy, doesn't it, in this day and age that you've got to do that. But I know the person who has to leave their desk, get in the lift, go downstairs, get back in the lift, go back, they're not laughing.
No,
you know, they're cussing. So yeah, you know, it does increase productivity, certainly. Cool. And we mentioned the Amplify QX portal. You know, we're very lucky that Mark's business partner, John, who's not on the call today, but, you know, would be available if we needed to chat this through, and is constantly working on developing these things further, has developed software to complement the hardware that we install. So you've got a web portal, which, you know, serves as a hub for either prospects who want to see their proposals or existing customers who want to see their systems live. It's very convenient to look at either those things or indeed your site survey results. You know, for customers, the app basically turns into a tool where you can monitor and manage the system yourself if needs be. Stay updated on the progress of your installation as it's moving along. I mean, our engineers are, you know, good communicators and will put project plans in place so you can see it all anyway, but that's accessible through the software, and just make sure that you're connected and informed. The best thing about it from my perspective is it's actually available on an app as well, so you can see it on your iPhone, iPad, tablet, any device that you need. You can take it with you in your pocket. If you're the IT director, someone tells you about a problem, you can quickly check it out on your mobile device wherever you are in the world.
And that is completely unique to us. So We have got an API link. If you're techie, you understand. We've got an API link into Nextivity's sort of back end portal where we can log in and see every system that that we've installed. We can run updates, things like that. What we've done is taken an element of that, built it into a customer facing portal and app that, as Adam said, it gives you, or certain people within your business, the ability to just keep an eye on things. Everybody likes, if you've spent a lot of money on a system, you'd like to know that it's working all the time. And most IT systems now, phone systems, servers, things like that, you can normally log in from anywhere in the world to see how it's running. We've developed that, and we're very proud to say that we're the only people in the UK that have got software like this as well.
Yeah, cool. So no, it's really good. Great. Okay, just in terms of a timeline, how does it? What might it look like if you wanted to go ahead? Well, look, we offer a free solution design and quote service. If you're watching this and you're wondering, oh, it all sounds good, but I wonder how much it's going to cost. Well, look, we can build out a solution design and quote. We just need some pretty basic information, maybe floor plans if you've got them, but key building information, the address, your location. We'll tailor a quote and talk you through what we've designed on a Teams call or face-to-face if we can come out to see you. That's available to anyone at any time. We can normally get those turned around in a day. 2 days would be unusual. We'll get them back to you very quickly. A site survey is the next step. We do charge for the site survey, but it's important for us to say, first and foremost, you get a comprehensive report after the engineer has been on site with their testing equipment. You get a final and accurate quote beyond an estimation at that point, so you can really start putting those numbers through your cash flow models. But most importantly, this actually forms like a deposit. You get value from it anyway, from the report and the system design, but it forms a deposit because if you go ahead, that number is deducted from the invoice value of whatever we go on to install. From there, I think we've already said installation typically within 4 to 6 weeks. We can actually put together lease quotes for you, so you could split this out on a 5 or 10-year license if you preferred. If you're going with a CapEx, we typically would invoice 50% upfront and the balance on completion. And then there is a warranty and maintenance, 60-day standard maintenance cover post installation, but you can extend that out to 3 years, and all of the kit comes with a 2 years manufacturer warranty. It really is the gold standard. It's very, very rare anything goes wrong, but we've got you covered, belt and braces, if you need it. Good. So what next? Coming towards the end now, I'm sure you'll all be sad to hear. Well, look, lots of additional information on our blog, signalsolutions.co.uk blog, or just go to the website. You'll see the blog in the toolbar on the top. Loads and loads and loads of information on there, including case studies and everything else that you might need. But actually, what I'd recommend is if you want to request a free solution design and quote, you can do that via the website. Just go to the website again and choose the desktop survey option. And that's where we'll ask the information that we need and very quickly get back to you with our recommendation. If you don't want to do that and you want to have a chat, you can just give me a call. I'll happily take some time to answer any of your questions if I can, or seek the answers if I can't. Or you can email me, or we can arrange a Teams call. We do a lot of Teams calls and actually visits out to site as well. Whatever suits you best. So look, I think that's useful.
Looking very useful there, Adam.
Very useful. Yes, it has been noted, Mark. Maybe a couple of years old, that picture.
Very smart.
Cool. I think that's pretty much everything for today. Any closing remarks from yourself, Mr. Rose?
Thank you for watching. Hopefully it's been informative. I would say as Adam said, reach out to us. We offer this free design and solution, free solution design and quote option for everybody. So if you've got a building that's got poor mobile signal, reach out to us. We'll give you an idea of what it would cost, and we'll give you a nice idea of what equipment would be installed and exactly how it would work. So please reach out to us. We love building these solutions for people just to give them an idea, and hopefully we can help solve your problems.
Perfect. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for helping me out with this today, Mark. Couldn't have done it without you, of course. Anyone got any questions, do drop me a line or get in touch via the website, and we will hopefully chat with you very soon. All the best.
Thank you very much.